I'm continuing my look through the Best Picture Oscar winners, and I'm getting to the 1966 film A Man for All Seasons, directed by Fred Zinnemann. This film follows the story of Thomas More, the true life story of Thomas More, who wouldn't swear his allegiance to King Henry VIII as supreme leader of the church in England. This is when, obviously, Henry VIII wanted to break away from the church and become head of it, basically. And the reason he wanted to do that was essentially so that he could bend certain rules and do things that before then the church would have said, no way. So Thomas More, being a godly man, being a man of principle, sticks to those principles, and it puts him in the firing line of Henry VIII, the big cheese, so to speak. It's one that ever since I read the synopsis to it, kind of intrigued me. I was like, all right, it's got a bit of a kind of like a Braveheart but in boardrooms kind of air about it, maybe. Could be interesting. I loved this film. I really loved it. Now, on a technical front, it's spectacular. I think there's going to be certain people that no matter how good a period drama like this is, no matter how well it hits the nail, they're just not going to like it because they just don't like period dramas. They can't get into them. They feel like they're somehow more slow and boring than other movies. And I think a lot of that is down to the way in which people speak. You know, the way that people speak in these kind of movies tries to be a bit more of old, and people just, they want modern dialogue. They want to tap into something they know, and that's fine. It's okay. If that's you, then fine, move along. If you're one of those people who like, you're not that big on period dramas, but when a good one comes along, you're into it. That's kind of me. Period dramas are not my go-to, but like any genre, every genre has a good movie in it, and this is one. When you're looking at period dramas, this is a damn good movie. The script is fantastic. Again, like I say, when it's just people talking in rooms or on lawns of country manors somewhere, that doesn't sound exciting. But the tension that is weaved into those conversations because of the outcome that will be made from those conversations is so big. So it's going to shape the country. It's going to shape the country, like the UK as it is today. This is going to have lasting ramifications throughout history, and seeing those ramifications boiled down to essentially two men, King Henry VIII and Sir Thomas More, just talking it through, and you can see them playing Henry VIII is the one who's playing games. Thomas More is the one seeing through those games and saying, look, no, I can't, in good conscience, go along with it. So that causes some real drama, some real dramatic moments where if you're someone who does tune in to the dialogue and is very good at looking at the undertones of what's really being said, what they're saying with their mouths isn't necessarily what they're saying with their hearts. If you like looking at all that and seeing the mind games that are being played, this is a really great example of it throughout. The character of Thomas More here is someone that I hope I could aspire to be like this man. To be willing to put themselves and their beliefs on the line to the extent that Thomas More did is something that and I'm sure any man of faith or principle would hopefully want to be able to do. I think until it actually comes to the crunch and something forces you to stand up for those beliefs and principles, you never really know. But seeing this story play out, knowing that it's a true story and seeing where it ends up, despite where it ends up, it's still inspiring. I don't think you have to have the outcome that you're going for personally in order to inspire something within people. And that's really it's kind of what this story is about in many ways, is that on the surface, Thomas More failed in what he was setting out to do. And yet, all those years later, It's his story that's being told. It's not Henry VIII. While you may not see the outcome of your actions, of your endeavours, history will. And yeah, so here we get a really inspiring true story that's got some tough moments of a real life figure that I just found truly compelling. Brilliantly written, brilliantly directed. Set design is amazing. Costumes are great. You know, that's not my biggest thing. When you look at my scorecard on my movie reviews, costumes and whatnot is down at the bottom. And I don't say that to do those departments a disservice. It's just that great costumes without a great story doesn't mean anything. That's why story and character are always at the top of my list. For me, the most important thing is story and character, and then down at the bottom, enjoyment. Those two things are really what shoot a movie up for me. But, you know, on a technical level, those other things, production design, editing, all that kind of stuff, is just top notch. And I honestly can say that this is a worthy Best Picture Oscar winner. All the performances as well across the board are fantastic. But the two in particular, Robert Shaw as Henry VIII is really phenomenal. He just plays this brutish man. You know, if you know even a little bit about history, I'm not a history buff, but I know enough about Henry VIII to know how brutish he was. And I feel like Shaw gets that brutishness across, but also dazzles us with just enough charisma to help us kind of get a sense of how this man was able to steer people around to his way of thinking so much. You know, it's not enough to just be a brute. You've got to have something else about you, a cunning. He's just not quite cunning enough for the likes of someone like Thomas More. Played brilliantly here by Paul Schofield. He was the other one. Obviously, he's the central character, he's the main actor. To the best of my knowledge, I've not seen Paul Schofield in anything else, or certainly if I have, I don't remember him from anything else. But here I found him to be a truly magnetic presence. I think he really conveys the weight of this man's journey, and also just the principled nature of this human being. He never comes across as someone who's talking down to others for the sake of his principles. He's a quiet man, you know. He makes his stand quietly. He's not all pomposity and shouting everyone down and giving great speeches about, you know, biblical matters. He's very quiet. He's very sedate. And there's a certain sense of power that comes with that gets noticed, you know. And when you match that up to someone like Henry VIII, who is quite more bombastic and pompous and gets his way whenever he wants it, the moment you throw this principled man who's very quiet, very careful about what he says, careful about what he does, thinks things through, not to pull the wool over people's eyes, but because he wants to do it properly. Again, everything coming out of those principles, everything coming out of what is the right thing here. How do I go about that? I'm not just going to jump in with both feet. I need to think about this. What is the right thing? What does God want me to do? How do I need to act? Even if it's going to be something that is going to be extremely hard to do. So yeah, and I think he conveys all the weight that comes with those choices. There's a young John Hurt here as well, popping up as this character, Richard Rich, that is actually quite a tragic character because he's something of a Judas, really. But you see that there's a whole thread throughout this film about discipleship, I think. In order to disciple people, you need to be someone who's worth following. But also, on the flip side of that, people still have to make the choice about what it is they're going to follow. And you can have someone as virtuous as Thomas More kind of showing the way for this young fellow, this Richard Richie Rich. But it's not enough sometimes. The greed creeps in. The lust for power creeps in. And I think, yeah, John Hurt plays this weasel of a man in this film. I'm used to seeing him play like characters that have a certain sense of dignity about them. Whereas here, obviously young, fresh-faced, it's the flip side. And he plays this absolute weasel, this man that you kind of, well, by the end of the film you want to hate, but in the beginning of the film and even through a certain section of the middle, you're kind of hoping he's going to turn around. He's one of those characters that you're hoping for redemption, but the more the film goes on, you just see him losing sight of that. I don't like giving 5-star ratings these days to movies on a first watch. This probably is a 5-star movie, but yeah, take my scorecard with a pinch of salt at this rate. But, you know, 4.5 or 5, either way, it's brilliant, and it is one of the best picture winners that I've seen. However, have you seen it? If so, what did you think about it? Do leave your comments on A Man for All Seasons down in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts on the film. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.